We're going to bring up the next set of panelists. As I do so, I want to introduce to you the moderator who will be leading this discussion. Christina Lagdameo is the Deputy Director of the White House Initiative on Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. And prior to that, she worked at the White House Office of Management and Budget as an undergraduate. She was also at the University of Maryland, and she led the successful struggle to establish the first Asian American Studies program in the DC metropolitan area. She very recently returned from India, where she worked for over 2 years with an organization that rescues and rehabilitates survivors of sex trafficking. And on a personal level, let me just add that Christina has always been that mentor and loving older sister in many ways who has helped me stay on that right path whenever I've been getting off course. And so she's been keeping me in check and making sure that we as a community and we as an administration continue to fight for all the needs and the struggles of our society. So with that, let me turn it over to Christina Lagdameo. Let's give her a round of applause.
Thank you, Eddie. And again, I just want to say that the reason that we're all here today, all of our champions, is not only the work of our president, obviously, but the work of the folks that he puts in the White House, such as Eddie. And for those who are watching from home and those who've submitted videos who weren't chosen necessarily, you're all a champion. And we're all so proud of the work that you do. I can tell you, being in part of different White Houses now for over 10 years, that it gets very tiring reading policy briefs all the time and being in meetings. And so to actually get to watch videos and read essays was so refreshing and just brought a nice change to our day. And you guys just brought so much life to the work that we're doing. So thank you. So we're going to liven it up a little. We have a great panel here. They're so inspiring. And I want to start with Chu Yu and Amy Lee. And, I just want to let you know that we just had over 100 CEOs of foundations in this very room this Monday, and we showed your video. And it's part of the initiative's work now to talk, we want to talk about limited English proficient communities. So tell us why you're doing this type of work.
So Chisel is a youth leadership program. It's a partnership between Charlestown High School, located in Boston, Massachusetts, and the Boston Chinatown Neighborhood Center, which is a nonprofit community-based organization who we see where Charlestown High School, they reached out into the community that there is this need, that they need more, they need the help, support, and so BCNC came in and then they created this youth leadership program to help build the student leadership body that's there in Charlestown High School. There hasn't been many other leadership programs that's out there that's like this. So it's actually been challenging in making this program happen. But so their stories are just not heard of often, and so then we're just combining our resources together to serve the population.
In your video, a lot of the students talk about being isolated and feeling lonely because they can't connect through English. How do you help them through that?
So I run our class are bilingual. So then I have to go back between different languages, and also having our teacher ally, Chikai Yamauchi, to really share us her experience with working so closely with the students, hearing from the teachers' perspectives, getting their support, the administrative's support, and also based off of the BCNC's, some of the youth who also come to our programs to help him out. Mm-hmm.
And Chu's so gracious. Usually we get our champions. No, not everyone's very humble, but she's so gracious to share the stage with. She brought one of her peer mentors, Amy. Yeah. And Amy, why don't you tell us about what you do? on a day-to-day basis?
Yes. I'm the peer mentor in TRISO, this program. I Why I joined this program is because like last year when BCNC Youth Center Director Sophia asked me for should I start a leadership program in Chaosang High School, and then I said yeah, because I think immigrants need to have the opportunity to learn the leaders, to learn how to be a leader, and have chance to build up their confidence and to be more easy to adapt in the American culture. I think it will be help immigrants to do better job in college thing when we going up. Yeah, we going to college and start to have team working and the presentation. We will build more. We can build confidence like through the leadership program. So I joined TRISO this year for peer mentor to help the immigrants students to find out their ideas, what they thought, and express how they feel.
Thank you, Amy. And Chu, why don't you tell us what is like one of the most memorable things working with the students and what you've gained from it?
I definitely learned a lot about myself through the students, actually. I identify myself as Asian American, but my whole experience is totally different for them for them here, and just also I just feel like I'm trying to build a bridge between myself being Asian American raised here, just trying to understand through their experiences and their stories, and just trying to, it's broadened my perspective to figure out how I can translate everything that they're doing, everything that they're struggling through, how I can share that with everybody else.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to turn to Mylin. And Mylin wrote an essay, so I don't think it was circulated yet, but we will circulate it. We probably will do a blog. And the reason we selected her essay is because she addresses mental health issues, which too often we don't speak about in the AAPI community. I can personally tell you that my brother committed suicide when he was 30 years old, and actually his death anniversary is this Friday. And it's just something that you thought you could never prepare yourself for that, and you could never imagine it. So we were really touched by Mylin's essay to share that. And could you just tell us, maybe share a little bit about the essay, what you wrote about?
So I wrote my essay mainly from the encouragement of my mentor, Dr. Matthew Mock, and it kind of highlights a little bit about my Vietnamese background, but also in college I was diagnosed with cyclothymia, a mood disorder. And through the diagnosis, I didn't really know what was going on. It was kind of, I had stress from college and then going into the counseling center and then someone telling me, hey, you have a mood disorder. And really not knowing what was going on with the diagnosis and realizing that I have internalized shame with the diagnosis and my own stigma towards mental health, even though I was studying psychology. And then trying to start that conversation with my family, who doesn't really know a lot about mental health services and issues. So the essay is just kind of highlighting my own personal experience, and then now being in a doctoral program, learning to be a provider of mental health services. So kind of from a perspective of a consumer, but also as a provider, and recognizing some of the needs, for instance, with resources and access to services within the AAPI communities and within other communities as well.
One thing that I learned from my experience is that when we ask each other, like, how are you? It's just not like, oh, fine, bye. But really, how are you? And that we listen when people speak and even listen to what they're not saying. What advice can you give to people about how do you get people to open up about it and share what they're going through, or what would you have liked people to help you go through what you're going through?
I think looking back at that experience, it was a really dark time just because I didn't find a lot of support whenever I said, hey, this is what I'm going through. A lot of people kind of tensed up and didn't really know what to say. Although the providers at UC Davis was trying to helpful, there was this cultural barrier. My psychiatrist at the time thought that I had family support when I only had one conversation with my parents, and that didn't go very well. So my advice is to kind of reach out and know that you're not alone. There's a big community out there, and I feel that once we start sharing our stories about it, we can build a stronger network of support, and it doesn't have to be within physical proximity, but just sharing our stories and realizing that this isn't the end, this is the start, and then you can live a very successful and brilliant life afterward too, and reaching out.
And sometimes it's really awkward, right? When someone says, "Oh, I'm really sad" or "I'm depressed," I've heard people have terrible responses of like, "I know, I had such a bad day yesterday," and you're like, "No, that's not what we were talking about." So what should people say when someone opens up and is saying that they're depressed or they're going through these problems? What do you recommend to everyday people?
Get up to resources. There aren't a lot of resources, especially culturally responsive services out there, but there are some resources out there. There's crisis hotline, and there's always community mental health agencies that you can link up. But at the early signs, reach out and really get help. Don't wait, because I feel like a lot of times, especially within our AAPI community, we're so ashamed with some of our problems that we don't reach out for help until it comes to a crisis point. And at that time, sometimes tragedies do happen. So reach out early, or if you notice that someone is not acting how they usually are, ask questions and say, hey, maybe Google as to some of the services.
Thank you. Thank you for your work. Now we'll turn to Nidhi. And Picasso says that art washes away the dust of our souls. And that's really what Nidhi's work does. When you go online and watch her video, it's beautiful pieces. So can you share about your work and your inspiration?
So my work, to, I guess, sound a little cheesy, is simply to make people happy. I create an image nearly every day, and I share that across email, Facebook, Twitter, whatever. And I really hope in the work that I do that it maybe reminds people to take a pause in their life and enjoy the moments around them that are special or beautiful. Because I do feel like we're inundated with so much stuff that it is really difficult to remember that beauty is everywhere. And so that's kind of what I try to convey with my work.
And a lot of people are champions today because they probably did things that their parents wouldn't have necessarily wanted them to do. Did your parents want you to be an artist? And how did you, if they're in the audience, yes. They better have. How was it to say, oh, I'm not going to be a doctor, I want to be an artist?
So, hi, Mom. She's in the audience, and I'm sure that my family is watching. And I would say that it is difficult. It's difficult as an Indian American to pursue something that is non-traditional. And at the beginning, it wasn't a supportive situation. Not that it was unsupportive. I think that as Asian Americans, there's a concern when you go into a career that you don't see examples of. you don't see that there are successful artists out there, that you can pay the bills and get health insurance and, all the normal things that parents worry about. And when I first decided to go to art school, it was not grad school, but art school. So, there was definitely concern coming from my parents. But as I went through the process of getting a foundation in art and sharing my work with my family, I think that they started to finally understand, because a lot of it is just a lack of understanding and a lack of a role model. And so as I've been doing my work, and they've been seeing more of it, they've been much more supportive, and I would say that my family is completely supportive now.
Go, Mom. We're glad you're here. Thank you for being supportive. And for all the parents who are here, thank you for supporting your children. So what words of wisdom do you have for the future artists out here?
Actually, in the video, and one of the things that's really touching to me is I get a lot of messages from families and children and parents who are fans of my work. And one of the people that I got an email from was a mom whose daughter was interested in art, and I think she's around 10. She's actually in the audience. And what I would say is really just pursue your dreams and keep drawing. And, it's hard when there isn't support, but if it's really something you're passionate about, I think that people will come around.
And Nidhi has a special art piece to share with folks today. It is of our president, which you'll be really happy to see. So I'd love for her to show, and hopefully we can catch it on live stream. And why don't you explain it?
So when I found out that I was coming to the White House, I thought, and I asked Eddie if I could create a piece to give to the president. And I was looking through some photos and reference images, and one of the things that I try to create in my work is a connection with people and the connections that we share with each other. And one of the things that I love about our president is how much his love for his family and Michelle comes through. And so this is an image of him and Michelle kind of getting away from it all, climbing up a tree, and just having a moment together. I imagine that there's an old radio and some champagne, and I imagine that Otis Redding is playing, and they're just taking a break and being together. So.
Beautiful. Thank you. We will definitely share that with the president. And you're right. He does like to get away, and so that's a great portrayal. And so we have our this wonderful array of emotions at this table, and also at the table we have Paul Kim, also known as PK. And if art brings us love and life, PK brings us humor and laughter. So make us laugh, PK.
First of all, I just want to say hi, Mom. She's in Korea. I'm in the White House. Yes. And if Korean moms, you could become a famous stand-up comedian. They don't care, but you tell them you go to the White House. She's like, you made it. So I want to thank Eddie Lee for pushing this through. He's going to be the first Asian president of the United States of America. I'm calling it right now. And growing up, I was one of the only Asians in my neighborhood. I was the only Asian in my elementary school. All the kids would trade food. You guys see that in elementary school. I would always see my friends trade food. You have a Capri Sun? I have a Fig Newton. Let's trade. It was hard to trade food when your lunch had kimchi, Spam, squid, octopus, seaweed. There's tentacles sticking out of your lunch. My friends would pick up snails off the ground. Would you eat this? I'll trade you this. I'll trade you my snail for your octopus. I'd always felt a little bit out of place, but what I realized was when you have those painful moments, when you're embarrassed or when you feel out of place, you can turn that into comedy. I one time I slipped and fell on my face in 9th grade and knocked out my front 2 teeth. And my mom was like, go to Korea to get your teeth fixed because it's cheaper, right? Don't ever go cheap on your teeth, all right? These are permanent fixtures in your mouth. And when I was 21, my friends took me to this techno club with neon light. All my other teeth were glowing except for these front 2 teeth right here. I looked like an Asian jack-o'-lantern all night long. And And all my friends are like, close your mouth. You're embarrassing. So I just want to encourage the kids here, when you have painful moments, you can turn these into ways of making friends. Like you can immediately disarm someone by sharing a painful moment. When someone's waving at you and you wave back, but they're waving at the person behind you, and you feel really dumb. Like, I didn't even know that person. I was just waving back at a stranger. Or when you say a long goodbye to someone, you say that long bye to your friend, and then you end up walking the same direction to your cars. And then you find out you're parked right next to each other. You get that long bye again. And then you pull up to the red light, and he's there again at the red light. You can use these moments to disarm other people, because everybody has this wall, and the more we get hurt, the more walls we build up. I remember in 10th grade, my parents transferred me to this school, and I was the only Asian. There was one other Asian girl in the high school, and everybody's like, you should go to prom with her because she's the other Asian. And we heard that for 3 years. We ended up going to prom together. And it's pretty sad. But when I first moved there, it was a kindergarten through 12th school. Their cliques were formed since 5th grade. So I remember in 10th grade, the first month I was eating lunch alone, and that changed my life, because it's painful when you're eating lunch alone in high school. And that changed my life because it made me realize I understood when I saw people alone, they just want someone to talk to them. And so I just would always go up to them and just talk to them, say what's up, and share a painful, embarrassing story. And immediately, they would just want to be friends. So I just want to share that to the young people. You could always, if there's something painful happens to you, just, there's a saying in stand-up comedy, is pain plus time equals comedy. So if there's, something that happens to you, it's embarrassing, just store it in your pocket, because later you can use it as a story. Yeah.
Nice. Well, he's pretty funny, isn't he? And where did this inspiration come from for you to want to tell jokes?
When I was young, I saw Johnny Carson and Eddie Murphy.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad was a pastor, so I was not allowed to listen to that kind of vulgar humor. But my dad, he came to America with a few $100s in his pocket, and he always said, dream big. My motto is, pain is temporary, but quitting is forever. And he definitely lived that. He raised 5 of us. He's my hero. He passed away last year. I always hear his voice, and he always said, everything happens for a reason. That was his whole thing. Everything happens for a reason. And I'm the last of 5 kids. I have 2 older brothers, 2 older sisters. They're all 2 years apart, and I'm the 5th. I'm 10 years apart from my next brother, so I always felt like an accident growing up, So in 6th grade, I remember going to my dad. I was like, Appa, am I an accident? And he said, there are no accidents in God's kingdom. Only regret. So I learned humor from my dad. That was
Well, he's definitely laughing now and very proud of you.
Thank you.
And so what do you want to do with comedy?
So, every stand-up comedian, of course, they want their own special. But for me, I have a folder that I have in my email. It's called Never Give Up. It's because all these years of doing collaboration, this Asian talent show and stand-up, I get emails from a lot of students, particularly Asian students, who are like, I'm the only Asian in my neighborhood or school, and they said, you really helped me. You made a difference. So. Just those alone, I just have a lot of emails in it. Whenever times get tough, I go through those emails, and instantly I'm just happy again. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And PK also organizes collaboration, which showcases Asian American artists, and it's kind of like our Asian American Idol, kind of.
Yeah, Showtime at Apollo.
Showtime at Apollo. And so, what have you learned from doing those? You've done quite a few now.
That everyone should dream big, that we live in the greatest country in the world, because if you dream big, you can do anything, and it's the truth. Like Jabberwockies, Kaba Modern, Quest Crew, Poriotics, David Choi, Keena Granis, Clara there's so many artists that have come through our show that are living their dream and making a lot of money doing it, and it's because they had big dreams and they weren't afraid to go for it. So again, to the children here, just, I hope you have big dreams. There's people in other countries that can't pursue their dreams. You know, sometimes after the comedy club, people come up to me and they go, "Hey, that was funny. I have a question," and they're just being polite. They're like, "Are you North Korean or South Korean?" And I always have to educate them, like, if you escape North Korea and somehow make it here and become a stand-up comedian, you'd be the most ambitious comedian on earth, you know. We're very fortunate to live in this country. Yeah.
Nice. And we can open it up for questions as well. What I did want to know from all the panelists, you know, we have the range of laughter and love and work. What is the political message in the work that you're doing, if there is one? Sure. Anyway, we can start. Island. We'll go this way.
Political message?
Sure. Or just what is your message?
So as a student, I'm still, developing my voice and stuff, but I guess with the political, I really do want to advocate for the reduction of stigma associated with seeking and utilizing mental health services, and also in creating more accessible informations to inform consumers of what they are potentially utilizing too. I think the information is really key in helping consumers go towards self-management, and then also in knowing the appropriate help. And a lot of that is providing information that take into considerations one's background, worldviews, cultural background, and languages too.
If I was to have a political message with my work, I guess it's more of me as a person. When I go to shows and when I share my work, I'm often the only Indian female in the conference center, or I'm the only Indian female sharing my work in the ways that I do. And I think that there's still a very small community of Asian Americans that are making art. And I think being an Indian female, and hopefully years from now, it'll be a much more diverse community, and the arts really need that. There's so many different voices, but different perspectives, and there's a rich cultural tapestry that we can draw from that isn't being exercised, it isn't being displayed, and I think that's, I guess, my political message.
Yeah, definitely similarly to what Mai has mentioned, being able to speak up for those who don't have a voice, helping them find that space for them to get comfortable and fitting in, and also being able to seek out allies, to being able to work together to make a change.
I think the video that we show is some challenge that immigrant students have, and everybody else has their own different challenges. For our video, we want to let people know that when we face the challenge, we actually can do something to help it and view it positively.
Our motto for collaboration is empowerment through entertainment, and what I love about entertainment is that it's not political and not religious. My whole family's Republican. I'm the only Democrat in my family. My best friend's Republican, and we all agree to disagree. But with entertainment, who hates singing? Does anybody hate singing and hate dancing? Or you never meet people like, I hate singing or whatever. So with the stage that we provide, it brings together all different kinds of people, and I feel it opens their mind, and we grow, we learn from each other.
Hi. First, I'd like to say to all the champions of change, you guys are such an inspiration, and I'd like to thank Eddie for setting up such a great video and essay contest, and I think that it really helped me reflect on what I'm doing with my life, and you guys are such an inspiration of what I would like to do in the future. So I like to ask a question based off of what PK was saying earlier about feeling a little bit out of place. And here we're here to celebrate all of your uniqueness, but unfortunately, especially when we're younger or in middle school, high school, and beyond, it can be a source of bullying or discrimination. So I just wanted to ask all of you, what would you say to the youth of today when they are feeling out of place, they're not fitting in, or if they're being bullied?
Let's just go ahead, PK.
Oh, me first?
Yeah.
It's definitely an issue I struggle with because I have kids. I was bullied too. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to tell my son. Sometimes he's only 3, but he gets bullied sometimes. He was born premature. He's really small. So I'm just like that horrible, overprotective father that just wants to go to school and yell at the other kids. I don't have an answer, to be honest. Definitely we have to embrace, love, accept ourselves, and definitely love our enemies.
Yeah, so we actually touched base on by having Chisel around, we were able to provide a space to talk about issues such as this, where in normal teacher curriculums they wouldn't have the chance to talk about. So I definitely want to recognize all the Chisel youth who are here today, supporting us and being here. If you guys could just stand up. They've learned how to identify bullying and also just sort of, hopefully that they'll get some. Yeah, these are our future leaders from what Chisel is doing, that they'll be able to speak up for people that come from a similar background as themselves, and keep doing good in their school. Amy, did you want to say something?
Oh, sure. We learned about bullying this year, and before we learned what is bullying. When we saw the bullying, we don't know what to do because we are afraid about we were getting hurt from to helping the people who is being bullied. But from this program, we learn different kind of bullying, and we learn the way to help the people who is being bullied as an ally. So right now, I think we can actually do something for the bullying when we saw it. I mean, when we see it.
To get a little political, which is good here. When I was in high school, I had I had a difficult time because we were in the Kuwait War, the Gulf War, and then in college when 9/11 happened. So there were definite times in my life where being Indian was totally not cool. And I didn't want to be Indian. I wanted to run away from my identity and say, I'm American. And I think that at those times, I really turned to my friends. A lot of my friends were Asian. And so I think that having a strong support system and people who kind of have your back is really important. But I've also learned, as I've gotten older, the best response is no response.
I think behind bullying, there's a component of fear of someone that you don't really know or are unfamiliar with. So I think just starting that conversation, like, hey, you know, what's going on? What is it about me that's different, that's making you uncomfortable? And really starting that conversation. And then also, with the bullying, and I recently had a talk with one of my other mentors, because, you know, I've never thought I'd be here. And he was saying that, I think there's a Japanese saying that the nail that sticks out gets hammered down. But within the United States, you know, we cherish and we actually encourage being unique and being different. and sometimes when we're in that position where we are different, it's scary, and sometimes we want to conform and we want to follow norms, but if you really look back at our leaders and some of the more successful people nowadays, they did something different that made them stick out. They did something that's very new.
That's a great question also because, the president is absolutely committed to stopping bullying, and our initiative and the work with Secretary Duncan, we always say that no child should go to school in fear and not feel safe at school, and anywhere for that matter, but especially at school. So there are resources on whitehouse.gov and our website, and also on ed.gov if you are interested. Thank you.
Hi, I just want to say thank you for all that you've done. I'm sure it was difficult to make the decision to do the video, do the essay, and put it out there because you're putting yourself out there, and then to come here and to be in a public situation. So thank you for the steps you took to have the courage to do it because it enriches us. So we're very grateful for that. So my question actually is for Nidhi. I've noticed a lot of your work has people of color in it. And I'm wondering, what was your inspiration for that? And have you gotten responses to that type of work that you do?
So I make a conscious decision to to have brown people in my work. I'm brown, so and a lot of the work that I do is inspired by my life. Obviously, the elephants and zebras having a picnic, I didn't actually see that, but I do have a very active imagination. But when I draw couples, my husband, who's in the audience, is not Indian, he's white, and so I do a lot of mixed race couples as well as just brown girls. And I think that it's really important because that's so much more of where our society is moving towards. It's mixture. It's everywhere. People are really not necessarily seeking out people who are identical to them. And I think that in my relationship, I definitely feel that being from two different worlds makes my life richer, and it makes my work richer. And the people who respond to my work see themselves in it. They see a representation of artwork that they don't see. And it's not that it's not there, that doesn't actually exist in life. It doesn't exist in art. And art, I feel like art should be life, but art definitely should imitate it.
Maybe we'll have Nidhi started doing representations for the census, because as you all know, the census came out in 2010 and says that Asian Americans were the fastest growing race in America, right? Because everyone says, well, what about Hispanics? Because Hispanic is considered an ethnicity, but Asian is the fastest growing race. So maybe we'll connect you to the census. Great, we appreciate it.
Thank you. It's me again. Thank you. Well, I have two parts. The first part goes to Milling for thank you for being so strong and overcome your challenges and share that with us and coming back to help. So I'd like to ask you, in your path, have you met anyone, Vietnamese Americans, help anyone in Vietnamese Americans community that have the mental health problems? I knew that we have many that don't come out. So we have an organization, it's a nonprofit, Voice of Vietnamese Americans, and I would appreciate very much if you work with us. And all that you suggest to do, maybe we can work with you to collaborate and do translations and bring it to the community.
So, cảm ơn cô. Yeah, so it is hard being a second year in my program. I've only met 3 Vietnamese psychologists so far, and 2 of them were female Vietnamese psychologists. And actually in my blog, I wrote a little bit about role models just because it was only a few months ago that I met of my first Vietnamese female leader, a very well-established lawyer within the Bay Area at a conference. And to me, that was almost disheartening, at the age of 26, and seeing someone that looks like me, that comes from a similar background, talk in a public forum about her challenges and successes as a female leader. So that's hard, and it is hard within, especially within the mental health field, to find a lot of Asian Americans providers. And I've been fortunate enough to be connected to Santa Clara County and be able to find so many mentors that connect me to different professionals. And within Santa Clara County, they have the Vietnamese Mental Health Network, which is a wide array of Vietnamese service providers, from social workers, psychologists, etc. And also Santa Clara County, because we have a very large Vietnamese population there, they're actually working on utilizing consumers to provide kind of like a peer support model, and that's ECCAC. So on part of that branch of the county, I'm working with the Vietnamese community in creating a peer support groups for at-risk Vietnamese youth, in talking again about the intergenerational issues from parents and kids, and then also talking about dropout rates, gangs, a lot of some of the mental health issues that are really prevalent within the AAPI communities, for instance, gambling addiction, domestic violence, etc.
Thank you, that's great. And I'd like to share that with the Indo-Chinese too, because I know that underneath there we have friends who are from the Hmong community, Cambodian, Myanmar, and victims of human trafficking who are not able to come out, not able to share. So thank you, we should work together. And my second part comes to Nidhi, because thank you. My son is at the Tisch School of the Art, and I share your loneliness, because I didn't share his path at the beginning. When he was in high school, I helped him to make sure that he apply for all the Ivy Leagues, MIT and everything, and make sure that he excel in math and physics and all that, and have high score on SATs, and he applied for all those schools. But the first card came to me was the invitation to the party at Tisch School of the Art, because you got accepted. So he has many friends who are Asian females. So we should connect it, and I think we should. So he always.
But that wasn't a setup.
So I thank you for coming out and support. I support you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well, with that, we're going to close up. I'd like to thank our panelists and give our champions another round of applause. And I'd also like to leave you all with one more challenge. And we just had this champions platform. We also have a We the People platform. And if you put a petition up and get 25,000 signatures on a particular issue that you are passionate about, then the administration will respond. And we've already had community members come in with great success. So I challenge you all to take the next step with a political issue. So again, congratulations to our champions, and thank you.
Thank you to our panelists. Let's give them another round of applause. So we want to close actually with two speakers, and the first one that I want to introduce you today happens to be my boss. He's a deputy assistant to the president and the director of the Office of Public Engagements. And about 6 months ago, I sat down in his office and I said, I think we need to do a video contest. And so we sat down and we talked about what that would look like, and his answer to me was, go and do it, make it happen. And I think little did we expect something like this to come about from it. Having seen all of your stories, 200 videos, 35 essays, tremendous amounts of energy and inspiration that has come out of this. And so I think a lot of the success is due to John and his ability to let me kind of go out and do these things and to support this community and all the work that we're doing in the AAPI community. He knows as well as I do how important all of you are, that you all are champions, regardless of whether you're on stage or not, that all of you are doing amazing work in your own communities. And that's why we want to just continue to support you and continue to be here for you as the administration. So with that, let me introduce to you Mr. John Carson.
Good afternoon, everyone. How has the event been so far? Excellent. Well, I want to start by taking a minute to congratulate and thank Eddie Lee, who has been doing just a fantastic job as our Director of Asian American Pacific Islander Outreach and for making this Champions of Change event possible. So thank you, Eddie. I just wanted to stop by for two reasons. First, to tell you a little bit more about the idea behind the Champions of Change theme. And second, I have an ask for those of you following online, everyone here in the audience, and most importantly, for all of our champions. The reason that we have created and been doing the Champions of Change program is because this president and this administration knows that we have no monopoly on good ideas. And that, well, these policy debates and budget fights and everything else that you hear about happening here in Washington, D.C. is going on, that across this country there are thousands of amazing people like our champions here today who are making life better in their community. And we've held a number of these Champions of Change events. We had soldiers who'd returned from Iraq and created a veteran service organization in their own hometown. We've had chefs who partnered with a local school district to put the Let's Move ideas to work in a school cafeteria. But I think our AAPI video and essay contest Champions of Change has absolutely been one of our best because it has had one of the broadest reaches of engaging the community and really helping shine a spotlight on the amazing work that you are all doing. And that leads me to my ask. Whether you're watching online, here in the audience, or especially our champions, tell your story, help spread the word about what you saw here today. Tweet about it, write about it, blog about it. If you could, stop 3 people in the grocery store tomorrow. Tell them that you were watching online, you were here at the White House, or that you're a champion of change. I think sometimes it's our champions, it's those people like our champions making change in their communities who are sometimes the most hesitant to tell their story. Tell everyone about this experience. Let's help them get these amazing videos and essay that were put together spread as far as possible. And I ask you to do that for 2 different reasons. First, there are some really good ideas and amazing things happening here that we need to let other people know about so they can model them in their own community. But the second is that we, as someone has said, it's halftime in America. We are moving this country forward. The president's policies and the work you're all doing are making change. But one thing we can all agree on is that we need more Americans every single day to believe they can make a difference as well. So when they see the champions that we're highlighting here today, when they hear about you participating in a White House event, others will be inspired to know that they can make a difference, that they can make change as well. So help us tell this story. And someone who has also been a fantastic champion for the Asian American Pacific Islander community, someone who has been a partner with President Obama and this White House, is the vice chair of our White House initiative on AAPI, and that's Mr. Sefa Aina, who I'd like to introduce at this point to come up and speak.
I'd like to take this opportunity to also thank Eddie and all the wonderful staff here at the Office of Public Engagement to put this wonderful program together. It's been an amazing day. I've had a chance to watch the videos. I've watched them several times, and I was really, really inspired by all the work that went into this. Because what you have here is sort of a coming together of art and narrative. And it's really important for us as we move forward as a community that we expand on these stories. Because one of the problems we're facing and one of the things and the challenges that we have with the White House initiative is to challenging these narratives. The public narrative of this community is one of the model minority. And that just is so singularly focused on a few people who might have some success. But it doesn't really begin to tell the story and the different experiences that you'll find under the Asian American and Pacific Islander communities. Because when you say that, you're talking about 60 to 70 different cultures, 60 to 70 different ethnicities, 60 to 70 different immigrant stories, refugee stories, and colonized stories. And so for us to really get a sense of what that looks like, it's really important for us to continue to tell these narratives. The other lens that we're looking at through today is art. And art, nothing is better than art to help connect all the diversity that exists within these narratives. because you don't really have to have common language to look at a piece of art and have it evoke some sort of good feelings. You can share a common feeling just by looking at an artwork, or going to one of PK's events and hearing someone sing, or listening to Sister Teresa tell one of her spoken word poems. People can actually connect to that on a very different level. So we don't have to have the same language, we don't have to come from the same place, but we can all experience the same feelings and the same emotions that are evoked through that. And it's not just the kind of art that we think about in the traditional sense. As Rebecca said, sports can be a form of art. We can be on the same basketball court together and not have to actually verbalize anything, just give a look. That means go to the basket. Probably not going to dunk it, but you know, it's pretty good, right? I played basketball. I know it doesn't look like I played basketball, but I played basketball. My wife can attest to that. I did at one point play basketball. But it's not about me. It's important for us to have these people in our communities, because these people are bridge builders for us. Oftentimes when you think about our communities and when they couple that with art, oftentimes it's about the dances and the cultures that we bring from our home countries. And what those things do is, in essence, tell the story of our community, tell the history of our community. But we have so much rich history here in America, and that these artists, these spoken word artists, or these visual artists, these musical artists, these people tell about that experience here. And so that art is as relevant as some of the lion dancing, or some of the Samoan Siva, or some of the other rich art that we bring from our communities. A couple of days ago, we did have a huge event here with a lot of the funders, but my favorite part of the event was the closing. We had a South Asian and Indian brass band. It was amazing. It was off the chain. They were doing bhangra music with horns, and it was just a beautiful way to kind of tie together a community that comes from a lot of strength, a lot of struggle, and a lot of strife, but is just as beautiful now as it has ever been. And so I appreciate the message of art that is expressed through this competition. The last thing I want to talk about, though, and the other lens which is really pronounced here today, is this idea of a narrative. Everyone has stories. In Samoan culture, we have these people, we call them whaikakalas. Those are gossipers. But we also have our talking chiefs, our orators. And they so eloquently tie together the history of our communities. They do it in ways that I can't even begin to speak about. And every community has, and every culture has these people, these treasures in their communities who are storytellers. People who can take you back. People who can actually put you there and make you feel like you are actually part of that story. Whether that story took place 40, 50 years ago, 200, 300 years ago, it's an amazing, amazing talent to have those people in our lives. So what we're celebrating today is the challenging of these narratives, is pushing out more narratives and newer narratives, because the ways in which, like our sister Teresa told us, if you don't tell your story, someone's going to tell it for you. So for us, in order for us to really, really move beyond sort of the model minority myth and all the other stereotypes that are out there, we need to add more narratives. We need to talk about ourselves. We need to give ourselves dimension. We need to give ourselves the flavor and the funk that's truly existing in our community. And only through that can we move towards more humanizing of our community. We can become more acceptable as artists, more acceptable as mental health professionals, more acceptable as basketball players. And unless we kind of put those narratives out there, we're going to always sort of be in the places that we are. The last message I want to leave with is that I want to say this. Some narratives are hard for us to listen to. They're hard for us to hear. But as hard as it is for us to hear these narratives, let's imagine a little bit how hard it is for the people who have to tell these stories. So for those folks at home and in the Asian American and Pacific Islander diaspora, keep telling those stories. And I pray that society grows tolerance and that society grows the patience to begin to hear them. Thank you all for coming today, and especially our champions for change. and actually not especially you guys, especially the families and the communities that support you, because there's a Psalm 1 saying that goes like this. That means the person who stands in front of you is not more important than the people who support them, the people who give them life, who give them love. So I want us to always remember that. Although today we're here celebrating these individuals are standing on the shoulders of their communities, they're standing on the shoulders of their parents, their grandparents, and all the people that they may never know in their lifetime who have struggled so that we can be here today. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you, John, and thank you, Sefa, for your inspiring words. So that brings us to the end of this program. As you all have heard from the panel discussions, from all the people that came here today, we are truly, truly inspired and so proud of all of our champions that we had the chance to honor and to hear their stories. I think that as we move on, what we can take away from this, as Sefa alluded to, is the fact that these folks have stood up in the hardest times and the hardest sort of barriers that they faced. Despite it all, they were able to stand up. And I think that as a community, we need to take their example and stand up in our own neighborhoods, our own schools, our own workplaces, whatever it might be, that we all are champions in our own ways. And so whatever you do from here on out, I sort of commission you and anoint you or bless you, whatever it might be, to continue to do the work that you're doing. Because it's the work that you are doing that inspires us here at the White House, inspires this administration, and keeps us doing what we do every single day. So with that, let me close by saying that we have, just as a token of our appreciation to you, executive orders that are outside for you all to pick up on your way out. We also want to host a reception for our champions upstairs in 430 ABC, and this is a chance for us to just thank them and to recognize them for their work, and also showcase some of their artwork and their spoken word pieces and their comedy, and we'll have a chance to hear a little bit more of that upstairs. We also have some food and a chance to just relax and enjoy and party. So please join us up there. We ask that you reserve the seats for the champions and their families and their guests because we have a limited number of chairs up there. But with that, we do want to welcome you to join us in that participation. So thank you all for joining us today.